I'm Cameron, and growing up, I always felt like I was living in the shadow of a star. My older sister Lily. Our home was never quiet. Family gatherings were a regular event, and relatives flooded our backyard like it was a festival. The draw? My mom's legendary barbecue and, of course, Lily's performances. Our backyard was like a makeshift theater. The neatly trimmed grass served as the stage, while the old oak tree stood tall, creating the perfect backdrop. Dad would man the grill, the scent of sizzling meat mixing with the chatter of the crowd, while Mom darted around with drinks, ensuring everyone was happy. "Lily, darling, give us one of your songs." Aunt Marge's voice would ring out, silencing the hum of conversations. All attention turned to Lily, who would leap onto a chair with the confidence of a seasoned performer. Her golden curls bounced with every move, and her playful grin hinted that she knew just how much she was adored. "My heart will go on," she'd sing with dramatic flair, mimicking Celine Dion. The crowd? Absolutely captivated. Cheers and applause erupted, as if they were in the front row of a concert. Dad would wipe away a tear, while Mom's face glowed with pride. Meanwhile, I lingered on the sidelines, practically wishing I could melt into the bushes. It wasn't that I didn't want to shine, but every time I tried to sing, it was a disaster, like a screeching cat. And poetry? Forget it. The words jumbled in my mouth, leaving me stumbling and embarrassed. Family whispers of "so different from her sister" weren't hard to overhear. It wasn't just the relatives who highlighted Lily's brilliance. Mom and Dad made it clear who the family star was. Lily was constantly whisked away to dance classes, singing lessons, and art workshops. Meanwhile, I was left to my own devices. At first, I didn't mind. I found solace in the musty books that lined our old shelves, disappearing into stories of far-off lands and ancient worlds. The one person who seemed to understand me was Great Aunt Maggie. She'd always seek me out, whether I was tucked behind the garage or curled up in the treehouse with a book in hand. "What adventure are you on today, Cameron?" she'd ask, settling beside me. "Reading about ancient Egypt," I'd reply, showing her the worn cover of my current favorite. "Good for you," she'd say with a warm smile. "You've got a sharp mind, Cameron. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Those moments with Aunt Maggie felt like a reprieve. She didn't expect me to entertain or dazzle anyone. With her, I could simply be myself, a quiet girl who preferred the world of books to the hustle and noise of family life. But even her encouragement couldn't ease the sting of feeling overlooked. Each time Lily nailed a new song or earned an award, she was showered with praise and gifts, new clothes, fancy gadgets, whatever her heart desired.
Me?
I got Lily's hand-me-downs and tired sighs when I asked for help. School became my safe haven. While I wasn't the most popular, I found my place in the classroom. I threw myself into my studies, determined not to fade into the background there. 2. Learning became my way of proving my worth, not to anyone else, but to myself. It was my quiet rebellion, my own way of shining, even if no one else noticed. After class, I'd often linger near Mrs. Thompson's desk, my voice low but determined. "Mrs. Thompson, could you go over mitosis again?" I didn't quite understand it. Her face would light up, pleased by my eagerness. "Of course, Cameron. Let's review it together." If a teacher didn't have time, I'd ask for book recommendations. Before long, my backpack became a treasure chest of extra reading materials. Late at night, I'd pore over them, determined to master every subject. That dedication paid off. By high school, I had climbed to the top of my class. For the first time, I felt a sense of pride. I was finally excelling at something, not just in my own world, but in one where my efforts were recognized. I even found a small circle of friends, other students who shared my love of learning and didn't mind my quiet nature. As graduation approached, however, home life remained centered around Lily. Our house turned into Lily headquarters. Mom was constantly helping her compile her portfolio for an elite advertising and PR program at a prestigious college. "This campaign idea is genius, Lily," Mom gushed, flipping through her work. "You're just so talented." I rolled my eyes, retreating to my room where my textbooks were my refuge. But one evening, during yet another dinner focused on Lily's future, a surge of frustration overcame me. "I'm going to college too," I blurted out. "I want to study management." A deafening silence filled the room before it was shattered by laughter. "Oh, sweetheart," Mom said, dabbing her eyes as she caught her breath. "We don't have the money for that. You'll need to start working after graduation. You're not gifted like Lily." Her words stung like a slap. "But I'm top of my class," I managed, my voice trembling with anger and humiliation. "I get straight A's." I bolted upstairs, returning moments later with my report card in hand. I slammed it onto the table, glaring at them. Their laughter ceased as they leaned in, eyes widening in surprise. "Well, I'll be damned," Dad muttered, scratching his head. "When did this happen?" "It's been happening for years," I snapped, my voice sharp with resentment. "Not that any of you bothered to notice." Mom's face turned red, a mixture of shame and regret flickering across her features. "Cameron, we honestly didn't know." But Dad cut her off. "It doesn't change anything," he said bluntly. "All our savings are going to Lily's education. There's nothing left for you, Cameron. You'll have to work at my cousin Frank's restaurant after graduation." The words hit like a brick wall. Without another word, I turned and fled, their voices trailing behind me as I raced to my room. Slamming the door hard enough to rattle the walls, I threw myself onto my bed, tears streaming down my face. But as I lay there, chest heaving with sobs, something within me shifted. A deep resolve began to take root, hardening my heart against the unfairness of it all. I realized I would have to fight for the life I wanted, without their help. "Fine," I thought, clenching my fists with determination. "If they won't support me, I'll figure it out on my own. I'll show them exactly what Cameron is capable of." The months that followed passed in a whirlwind. Lily went off to college, her departure marked by emotional goodbyes and teary embraces from our parents. They beamed with pride, celebrating her every achievement. Meanwhile, I buried myself in my studies, channeling all my frustration into ensuring I graduated as the valedictorian of my class. During that time, I found solace in Great Aunt Maggie's little house. It was a haven away from the constant tension at home. Her cozy, sunlit kitchen, filled with the scent of freshly baked cookies and chamomile tea, became my refuge. One afternoon, as we sat sipping tea at her round wooden table, she broke the silence with the question I had been dreading. "Cameron, what's your plan after graduation?" she asked, her kind, knowing eyes fixed on me. I hesitated, my fingers tracing the rim of my teacup. I don't know, Aunt Maggie. Mom and Dad told me there's no money left for college after everything they've spent on Lily." My voice trembled as I tried to keep the tears at bay. Maggie didn't respond immediately. She simply reached across the table and took my hand in hers. "Cameron," she said gently, "I've got some savings set aside. I'd like to help you go to college. You're brilliant, my dear, and I'll be damned if I let that potential go to waste." Her words hit me like a tidal wave. Overwhelmed by gratitude, I couldn't hold back my tears. I leapt from my chair and wrapped her in a tight hug. "Thank you, Aunt Maggie," I sobbed. "Thank you so much." Growing up, I always felt overshadowed by my older sister Lily. Our house was constantly filled with relatives, aunts, uncles, cousins, all eager to see Lily in action. The allure of Mom's famous barbecue and the promise of Lily's performances drew them in like moths to a flame. Our backyard transformed into a makeshift stage for Lily's performances. The big oak tree framed her like a spotlight, and the neatly trimmed lawn became her audience's seating. Dad would man the grill, the smoky aroma of sizzling meat filling the air, while Mom hustled to keep everyone's glasses full. "Lily, darling," Aunt Marge would call, cutting through the chatter. "How about a little performance for us?" All heads would turn to Lily, the star of the show. With her golden curls bouncing and her mischievous grin lighting up the yard, Lily would climb onto a chair, clearing her throat with exaggerated flair. She'd launch into a heartfelt rendition of "My Heart Will Go On." Her impression of Celine Dion had everyone in fits of laughter and awe. The applause that followed was deafening. Mom and Dad glowed with pride, Dad often dabbing at a tear of joy. And me? I stayed near the bushes, trying to disappear into the background. It wasn't that I didn't want to join in. I just couldn't match Lily's natural charm and talent. Whenever I tried to sing, it sounded more like a screeching cat. And poetry? Forget it. The words tangled in my throat, leaving me stammering and red-faced. Relatives whispered about how different I was from Lily. Even my parents, despite their best intentions, made it clear who the family star was. While Lily attended endless lessons, dance, singing, art, I was left to entertain myself. Not that I minded. I found comfort in books, those dusty volumes lining the shelves at home. The stories I read transported me far away from the backyard stage where Lily shone brightest. The only person who truly saw me for who I was happened to be Great Aunt Maggie. Whenever she found me hiding behind the garage or perched in the treehouse with my nose in a book, she'd sit beside me and ask, "What adventure are you on today, Cameron?" I'd eagerly show her my latest read, my face lighting up. "Ancient Egypt," I'd say, holding up a tattered paperback. Her eyes twinkled with understanding. "You've got a wonderful mind, my dear. Don't let anyone make you think otherwise," she'd say. In those moments, I felt valued. Maggie didn't ask me to perform or compare me to Lily. She simply let me be Cameron, the quiet girl with a head full of dreams and a love for learning. While Lily was whisked away to dance rehearsals, singing classes, and art workshops, I was left to my own devices. Not that I particularly minded. I found solace in the quiet corners of our home, tucked away with the dusty old books lining our shelves. The one person who truly understood me was Great Aunt Maggie. She had a knack for finding me, whether I was hidden behind the garage or perched in the treehouse with my nose buried in a book. "What adventure are you on today, Cameron?" she'd ask as she settled down beside me, her kind eyes sparkling with curiosity. I'd glance up, grateful for the company. "Ancient Egypt," I'd say, holding up a battered paperback, the latest in my growing collection of treasures. Maggie would nod approvingly, her smile warm and encouraging. "You've got a good head on your shoulders, girl. Don't let anyone tell you different." Her words were a balm to my soul. With Maggie, there was no pressure to perform, no comparisons to Lily. I could simply be myself, quiet, introspective, and happiest in the world of books. But even Maggie's kindness couldn't completely dull the sting of being the forgotten child. Every time Lily nailed a song or brought home another trophy, my parents showered her with gifts and adoration. New clothes, shiny gadgets, lavish dinners to celebrate her wins. Lily got it all. Meanwhile, I was met with hand-me-downs and exasperated sighs. School became my sanctuary. While I wasn't a social butterfly, I found my stride in the classroom. I wasn't content to coast through. I was determined to excel. "Mrs. Thompson," I'd ask after class, my voice soft but insistent, "could you explain mitosis again? I'm not sure I fully understand." Her face would light up at my eagerness. "Of course, Cameron. Why don't we go over it together?" When teachers couldn't spare the time, I'd ask for extra reading recommendations. Before long, my backpack was bursting with books. I'd stay up late every night, poring over every page, determined to master whatever I set my mind to. That dedication paid off. By high school, I was top of my class. For the first time, I had something that was all mine, a space where I excelled, where I wasn't in Lily's shadow. I even found a small group of friends who didn't mind my quiet, bookish demeanor. As graduation loomed, however, our home transformed into Lily's Central. Mom was endlessly helping her craft the perfect portfolio for an advertising and PR program at a prestigious college. "Oh, Lily, this campaign idea is brilliant," Mom would gush, poring over Lily's work with boundless enthusiasm. "You're so talented." I watched from the sidelines, both frustrated and resigned. It seemed there was no escaping the Lily show. But I was quietly building something for myself, something they couldn't ignore forever. Or so I thought. I rolled my eyes and retreated to my room, burying myself in my studies. But one evening, during yet another family dinner focused solely on Lily's college plans, I reached my breaking point. "I'm going to college too," I blurted out, unable to hold it in any longer. "I want to study management." The silence that followed was unbearable. Then, to my disbelief, they all burst into laughter. "Oh, sweetie," Mom said through giggles, wiping away tears of amusement. "We don't have money for that. You'll need to get a job after graduation. You're just not as gifted as your sister." Her words felt like a slap. My heart pounded with a mix of rage and humiliation. But I'm the top student in my class," I stammered, my face flushed with indignation. "I get straight A's." I stormed upstairs, grabbed my report card, and stomped back into the dining room, slamming it onto the table for all to see. The room went quiet as they leaned in to inspect it. I saw their eyes widen in disbelief. "Well, I'll be damned," Dad muttered, scratching his head. "When did this happen?" "It's been happening for years," I snapped, my voice shaking with hurt. "Not that any of you ever noticed." For a moment, Mom looked ashamed. "Cameron, we had no idea," she began. But Dad cut her off. "It doesn't change anything. We've spent all our savings on Lily's education. There's nothing left for you, Cameron. I'm sorry, but that's just how it is. You'll need to work at my cousin Frank's restaurant after graduation." Tears stung my eyes as I ran from the room, their calls fading behind me. I slammed my bedroom door so hard the walls seemed to tremble. Collapsing onto my bed, I let the sobs take over. But beneath the pain, a resolve began to take shape. "Fine," I thought, my fists clenched in determination. "If they won't help me, I'll find another way. I'll prove them all wrong." The months that followed were a whirlwind. While Lily left for college amid tearful goodbyes and proud embraces, I buried myself in my studies, pouring every ounce of energy into graduating at the top of my class. I sought solace in the welcoming warmth of great Aunt Maggie's home. Her small, sunlit kitchen became my sanctuary, a place where I felt understood and supported. One afternoon, as we sipped tea together, she asked the question I'd been dreading. "So, Cameron," she began gently, her wise eyes fixed on mine, "what are your plans after graduation?" I stared into my teacup, trying to steady my voice. I don't know, Aunt Maggie," I admitted, my throat tight. "Mom and Dad won't help me with college. They said there's no money left after paying for Lily's education." For a moment, Maggie said nothing, her gaze thoughtful. Then, she reached across the table and took my hand in hers. "Cameron, you're a bright, determined young woman, and I won't let your potential go to waste. I've been saving up for years, and I want to help you go to college." Her words hit me like a tidal wave. Overwhelmed, I burst into tears. "Thank you," I sobbed, throwing my arms around her. "Thank you so much, Aunt Maggie." In that moment, my world shifted. For the first time, I felt like my dreams weren't slipping away. I had a chance to carve out my own path, and I wasn't going to let it go to waste. Maggie's offer to help me with college didn't just save my dreams, it reignited a fire within me. I threw myself into my studies with more determination than ever, and with her support, I managed to graduate with honors and land a scholarship to a reputable university. Aunt Maggie's unwavering belief in me became the foundation of everything I accomplished. Years later, after earning my degree and working my way up in the restaurant industry, I was thriving as a manager at a prestigious dining establishment, the Gilded Fork. Life was busy, but I never forgot where I came from or the woman who believed in me when no one else did. Aunt Maggie and I stayed close, and she became somewhat of a social media sensation, thanks to the tricks I taught her. Her posts, chronicling everything from her flourishing garden to her famous apple pie, became a hit. Then one afternoon during the dinner rush, my phone buzzed. It was my mother. Her name on the screen stopped me cold. We hadn't spoken in years, not since I'd left home to carve my own path. "Cameron," her voice was tentative. "We'd like to talk as a family. Could you come by this Sunday?" After a long pause, I agreed. Standing on my childhood porch that Sunday, memories of feeling overlooked came rushing back. Before I could press the doorbell, Mom swung the door open and wrapped me in a hug. "Cameron," she exclaimed, "it's so good to see you." Inside, Dad greeted me with a gruff but genuine warmth. "You've grown into quite the woman, kiddo. We're proud of you." The house was filled with a sense of cautious hope. Lily was there too, cradling a toddler who must have been her daughter. She seemed quieter than I remembered, her once effervescent charm replaced with a subdued demeanor. After a round of small talk, Mom got to the point. "Cameron, we owe you an apology," she began, her voice quivering. "We were wrong to dismiss you the way we did. We were blinded by our pride in Lily. We didn't realize how much we were neglecting you." Dad chimed in. "You proved us wrong, kiddo. And for what it's worth, we're sorry. It was a moment I had dreamed of, but never thought I'd experience." Their words, though late, carried weight. Yet there was more to their invitation. "We need your help," Mom admitted. "Lily's been struggling to find work. We were hoping you might be able to get her a job at your restaurant." I looked at Lily, who was bouncing her little girl nervously. She avoided my gaze, the confident older sister I remembered, now looking uncertain. After a long pause, I nodded. "I'll see what I can do. No promises. But I'll talk to my boss." True to my word, I spoke to Mr. Reeves, the owner of the Gilded Fork. To my surprise, he agreed to give Lily a shot as an administrator. She started the following week, and I kept a close eye on her, bracing for drama or disappointment. But Lily surprised me. She arrived early, stayed late, and brought the same charisma that once captivated our family to her work. Customers adored her, and the staff respected her diligence. She wasn't just competent, she thrived. Over time, the walls between us began to crack. We weren't suddenly best friends, but we found common ground in our shared efforts. Slowly, our cordial working relationship extended beyond the restaurant, and the distance that once defined our sibling bond began to fade. Life wasn't perfect, but it was better. And for the first time, it felt like we were starting to rebuild not just a family, but a sense of mutual respect and understanding. Life has a way of surprising us, often when we least expect it. Just when I thought my path was set, Mr. Reeves, the owner of the Gilded Fork, called me into his office. My heart raced as I stepped inside, bracing myself for bad news. Instead, he smiled warmly and said, "Cameron, how would you feel about helping me expand the business?" Those words marked the beginning of a new chapter. I wasn't just managing one restaurant anymore. I was tasked with overseeing the launch of 3 new locations. My days became a whirlwind of endless staff meetings, meticulous menu tastings, and detailed financial planning. It was intense, exhilarating, and exactly what I'd been working toward. The promotion came with a generous raise, more than I'd ever dreamed of earning. For the first time, I had the financial freedom to do more than just scrape by. That's when the calls from home began. At first, they were small requests. "The roof is leaking," Mom explained hesitantly during one call. "We were wondering if you could help us out a little." I didn't hesitate. For all their past mistakes, they were still my parents. Helping them felt unexpectedly good. The roof turned into a new water heater, then into a full-scale renovation of our family home. With each call, I found myself contributing more and more to the place I had once felt so alienated from. As the house transformed, so did our family dynamic. The parties that once revolved around Lily's talents resumed, but this time they had a different tone. Mom proudly boasted to anyone who would listen about my accomplishments. "Cameron's opening a restaurant downtown," she told relatives at one gathering, her face glowing with pride. "We're so proud of her." Dad chimed in as he stood between Lily and me. An arm draped over each of us. "My girls," he declared, his voice brimming with emotion. Both of them making me the proudest father alive. Even Lily, who had grown into her own success as head administrator at the Gilded Fork, offered a genuine smile across the room. We weren't best friends, but we had reached a place of mutual respect and understanding. Driving home that evening, a sense of peace settled over me. The approval and recognition I'd once longed for were finally mine. But more importantly, I realized I had built a life entirely on my own terms. I wasn't just the golden child in my parents' eyes. I was a woman standing tall, capable, and confident in my own right. And for the first time, I wasn't seeking validation from anyone but myself. I saw the video. I know how you really feel. I've done everything I could to help you, and this is how you repay me? I'm done. Don't contact me again. Hitting send was like ripping off a Band-Aid. The pain was sharp, but it was also freeing. For the first time in years, I felt like I was taking control of my life and setting boundaries that should have been established long ago. Predictably, their responses came quickly. Cameron, don't be dramatic. We didn't mean any of it, Mom texted. Don't punish us over a misunderstanding, Dad added. You're overreacting. Overreacting? I thought, incredulous. Their betrayal had been laid bare for everyone to see, and yet they couldn't even muster an apology that felt genuine. For days, the messages continued, shifting from apologies to guilt trips, and finally outright anger. You're so selfish, Cameron, one text from Mom read. After all we've done for you, this is how you treat us? I refused to engage. Instead, I focused on myself, on healing, on moving forward. Aunt Maggie became my rock, offering her unwavering support as I navigated the aftermath of my decision. You've made the right choice, dear, she told me one evening as we sat in her cozy living room. You can't keep pouring from an empty cup. It's time to take care of yourself. With her encouragement, I threw myself into my work, pouring my energy into the expansion of the Gilded Fork's new locations. Each successful milestone felt like a small victory, a reminder that I was capable and deserving of the life I was building for myself. Lily, to my surprise, reached out during this time. One afternoon, she showed up at my apartment unannounced, her young daughter in tow. I saw the video too, she admitted, her eyes filled with regret. I should have said something to defend you, but I didn't.
I'm sorry, Cameron.
Her apology was unexpected but sincere, and for the first time in years, I felt a flicker of hope for our relationship. I appreciate that, Lily, I said, my voice steady but kind. But it's going to take time for me to trust again. She nodded, understanding. I'll wait. I just want you to know I'm here if you ever need me. As time passed, the pain of my parents' betrayal began to fade. It didn't disappear completely, some wounds leave scars, but it no longer consumed me. I built a life filled with people who valued and respected me, and I learned to protect myself from those who didn't. Looking back, I realized Aunt Maggie had been right. Knowing the truth was painful, but it was also liberating. I finally saw my parents for who they were, and in doing so, I freed myself from their toxic grasp. I wasn't the forgotten child anymore. I was Cameron, the strong, independent woman who had overcome every obstacle thrown her way. And for that, I was proud. I stared at the skyline from my office window, the weight of Mr. Reeves' words sinking in. It felt surreal, as if I were living someone else's dream. Yet it was mine. I had built this, brick by brick, decision by decision, with no one to lean on except myself. The same parents who had dismissed my ambitions now lived in a home I had paid for, with repairs I had funded, and they still thought I was unworthy. It hurt, but their voices no longer held power over me. Aunt Maggie's wisdom, Cousin Sarah's kindness, and Uncle Bob's encouragement reminded me I wasn't alone. I walked back to my desk, pulling out a photo of Aunt Maggie and me from her garden. Her warm smile in that picture reminded me of her unwavering support through my darkest days. It was fitting that the first call I made was to her. Cameron, dear, what's the news? Aunt Maggie answered, her voice as lively as ever. They made me CEO, Aunt Maggie. My voice cracked as the words tumbled out. Oh, my goodness. I knew it. I knew you had it in you, she exclaimed. I could practically hear her clapping on the other end. I'm so proud of you, Cameron. And you did it all on your own. Well, not entirely, I admitted, my throat tightening. I wouldn't be here without you, Aunt Maggie. You believed in me when no one else did. You gave me the chance I needed. Her voice softened. And look how far you've come. I always knew you'd find your place, even when others couldn't see it. You're unstoppable, Cameron. After we ended the call, I sat in quiet reflection. The path I'd walked had been painful and isolating, but it had also taught me resilience and independence. The next day, as I officially stepped into my new role, Lily approached me with a hesitant smile. "Congratulations, Cameron," she said, her tone genuine. "You've earned this." "Thank you," I replied, surprised by her sincerity. She lingered for a moment before adding, "I've learned a lot from watching you, about perseverance. I hope one day my daughter grows up to be as strong as you." Her words took me off guard, but they felt like a small olive branch, a step toward mending what had been fractured for so long. In the end, life wasn't perfect, but it was mine. The Cameron who had hidden behind her books while her sister performed in the spotlight had carved out her own stage, where no one could dim her light. The world no longer revolved around Lily's charm or my parents' approval. It was my world now, built with my hands, guided by my vision. And for the first time in my life, I felt truly at peace.